Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. So we see a lot of movements these days, right? Whites, Jews, and LGBT people leading the charge, and kind of people being coerced into being witches, and they're into Wicca, and they're into pagan magic, and they're into sex magic. They're into, Aleister Crowley and Madame Blavatsky. They're into a lot of things. New Age, light workers, empaths. We see the churches are doing witchcraft in their own way, right? Their group projection is Lucifer. When they get together and they describe God as Lucifer, they are projecting the group spirit of Lucifer. So are the mosques and the synagogues. And there's different demons that they're channeling and they're conveying by their actions. When they point to the spiritual realm deliberately and they get together and they focus and they convey, that's what they're doing. That's why there's these Freemasons everywhere in Morals and Dogma, one of the most famous, if not the most famous book that Freemasons often have still. Albert Pike said that he wanted them to convey what is called the Luciferian doctrine. And that meant people conveying the spirit of Lucifer. That's why there's so many people concerned with things going a certain way. And, they might call it the American spirit, the spirit of Israel. So the nations, the churches, they're all said to, the mosque, synagogues, all the religious groups, everyone but me, they're said to convey the spirit of the devil. Now, how do we know which one's which? Well, it's right there in one of my favorite verses, Luke 12:57. It says, why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? And in Matthew 5, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Okay, and Isaiah 28:17, make righteousness and justice the measuring line and plume line. In Proverbs, the Lord detests dishonest scales. So you have to use a scale that is precise and as morally precise as possible. And when people do that, and everything's on the up and up, and they come together and they don't cheat me out of my right to lead, right? Proverbs 16:12, the throne is established in righteousness and justice. And you have to make that the measuring line so you understand who is supposed to lead you, right? The word deal is the word lead scramble. That's when you have the Spirit of God, and it's a spirit of universal pinpoint and moral precision. Okay, that's how you understand the difference. I've never in my life heard anyone else explain it that way. Okay, because they don't want you to try to pinpoint what is exactly right. They want you to follow them while they're doing what is clearly Luciferian and wrong. Ezekiel chapter 13. False prophets condemned. Ezekiel did in the story what I'm doing right now. I'm saying they're wrong and I'm right. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, prophesy against the prophets of Israel who are now prophesying. Say to those who prophesy out of their own imagination, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to the foolish prophets who follow their own spirit and have seen nothing. Your prophets Israel are like jackals among ruins. So they're channeling Lucifer. They're channeling the cult of the emperor, right? The cult of the jackal. The cult of Lucifer, the cult of Baal, Zeus, what have you. Zeus being the core deity of Western culture. You have not gone up to breaches in the wall to repair it for the people of Israel, so that it will stand firm in the battle on the day of the Lord. Okay, so notice they're talking about battle. Again, we see Horus is described as a deity of war, of martial arts, right? Of justice, of righteousness, of the sun, of the sky, of kingship, what have you. So they're saying that whoever Horus is, whoever is the true form of Horus, whatever justice is in its true form, that is the true Son of God. And so it is in the Bible, right? The heavenly warrior defeats the beast. Be perfect, right? Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Moving masterfully, right? Wisdom, walking the way of righteousness along the paths of justice. The hawk spreading its wings by the wisdom of God. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So it's saying the same thing when you look at it in its pure form and you interpret both of them correctly. And there's other people interpreting it differently, such as the nature of the battle between good and evil. Before the Torah, there was Noah, and there was Abel, and they were doing God's work. Christ refers to Abel as righteous Abel in, I believe, John chapter 8. Christ is a character in the story, and I'm Christ in reality. Their visions are false and their divinations a lie. Even though the Lord has not sent them, they say the Lord declares and expect him to fulfill their words. Have you not seen false visions and utter lying divinations when you say the Lord declares? Though I have not spoken, therefore this is what the sovereign Lord says, because of your false words and lying visions I am against you, declare the sovereign Lord. Now some people might say, well, you made certain prophecies yourself. First of all, 10 or 20 or so of my predictions came true. Well, some people might say, well, you made certain predictions and, this, that, and the other thing. But I never prophesied as a false prophet. What I did is I tried to predict things like the Republican primary, some years back, like 10 years ago or something, 11. And I was experimenting with how the Spirit works. I tried to have faith in the prediction. I tried to see how it would work, and it didn't work out. After that, I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. And then I started to predict when I would die. Okay, I said, like I said when I was 16 years old, that I'm going to die after, a short amount of time. Okay, and I said, it looks like I'm going to die at a certain point, and I have decided that I'm going to die at that point. Or something tells me. That's not the same as saying that this is what's going to happen to this nation if you don't do this, this, and this, or this is what's going to happen to this king, and things like that we see in the Bible. Okay, for example, saying peace, peace when there is no peace. And over time, I decided that I was not going to try to predict things anymore, and that it didn't work that way, and I've been testifying for years that it doesn't work that way. That prophets see visions as a result of analyzing reality. Okay, they see visions in the sense of, say, for example, I studied martial arts for a long time in the Holy Spirit, and I see people's spirits, and it tells me, hey, they're going to do this, and they're going to do that, okay? Or I should do this, and I should do that. That's the kind of vision that they're having. God isn't literally speaking to them, okay? It's describing what is happening in a way that's confusing, because the Bible is Bible. And when you do it that way, people are less likely to come into the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. But if you point directly to me and explain it plainly, that you see that, you would have seen that they're more likely to say, well, that makes sense. I see that's the point of life. That's the right thing to do, and to do that. Because the Bible is by scribes and emperors who commissioned them to write the Bible. The Council of Nicaea, the Council of this and that. That's the difference. Okay? So I've never been a false prophet. I've been somebody who follows God and said, let me try this. And when that didn't work, I said, I'm satisfied that this is what the Bible's saying. Okay. So I'd compare it to being a martial artist. You're working out, you're doing moves. You're not moving masterfully initially. Over time, you're refining your moves. And at some point, you start getting older and you start doing your moves less effectively. But you still have that experience, etc. And so it is with seeing visions. Okay. That's why it's called being sharp. And the word sharp is like the word harp. The word vision has the word vise. And skywalking, sky law king. Okay, focusing on reality, focusing on the law, using wisdom and insight. Proverbs is about wisdom and insight and sense. It's not about conjuring up spirits. That's divination. That is the this kind of pagan gypsy witchcraft stuff. That's not what it's talking about when it says a vision in the Bible. And notice, like Isaiah, they're clearly giving him military advice as well. So it's a martial art vision. And David's vision he had when he was taking on Goliath, he had a vision that he's going to win. And he told Saul to trust him, and Saul did, and so on and so forth. Okay. My hand will be against the prophets who see false visions and utter lying divinations. They will not belong to the council of my people or be listed in the records of Israel, nor will they enter the land of Israel. Then you will know that I am the sovereign Lord. Again, the records of Israel in the spiritual realm. Because they lead my people astray, saying peace when there is no peace, and because when a flimsy wall is built, they cover it with whitewash. So here you have in the same chapter, you have the jackal, Set. Right? Set's associated with the jackal. These guys are right by Egypt when this is happening. Right there, extremely close. And you have the word whitewash, and the word whites made by people who were in Rome. These are white people. These are Semites mixed together, right? That's kind of the history of the colonization of Europe, where these Semites and people like that in the Mediterranean colonizing Europe, mixing their blood with theirs, right? Having children with them. So a lot of them became white people, if not all. If not all white people are mixed with Semite, a lot of them are. And they are the ones who made the wordplay, and the word whites, which is their intention for white people, which is playing out, which is a play on words for why set. And Set is a deity of rape by deception, the rape of Europa, where Jupiter / Zeus rapes Europa, which is symbolizes the whole European continent and race, or grouping of ethnicities, however you want to, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So it's saying that their ways, right? Ways set. Why set? Why are they doing what they're doing? Why colonize? Why have the homeless people? Why Big Pharma? Why all these things? Why Nazi Germany? Why all this propaganda? Why the theater of war? All these sex calls? Why all this crime? All this greed? All this corruption? Why in the particular way they're doing it? And keep in mind, all the nations and the races and the groups, as massive groups of people are feeling. Now, will you as an individual find the narrow road? Because broad is the way to destruction, which means all of your races in their major form, the masses of the people in your races, all of them are doing the wrong thing. Are you going to find the narrow way and obey God through me? That's what the message of the Bible. Till they cover it with whitewash. And you see these Republicans, for example, their color is red, the color of Set, and the token minorities there are said to be whitewashed. And so it is with the left, a left-right paradigm. The minorities there who play stupid, and then their propaganda, they're whitewashed. These are white cultural parties. And the people that toe that line are frat-washed, they're whitewashed. So again, because they lead my people astray, saying peace when there is no peace, and because when they build a flimsy wall, when they have a stupid argument, a weak argument, a hidden white supremacy argument, a weak argument to try to get you to go down a white supremacy path, right? They cover it with whitewash. The word wall is a play on words for law. When they pass their stupid laws, they're whitewashes made by white, Jewish, LGBT, and whitewashed people, token minorities. Therefore, tell those who cover it with whitewash that it is going to fall. Their wall is going to fall, and those who maintain their wall, their law, their scales, what to do, what not to do, where to draw the line, the wall, they're going to fall. Rain will come in torrents, and I will send hailstones hurling down, and violent winds will burst forth. When the wall collapses, will people not ask you, where is the whitewash you covered it with? Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says, in my wrath I will unleash a violent wind, and in my anger hailstones and torrents of rain will fall with destructive fury. I will tear down the wall you have covered with whitewash, and will level it to the ground, so that its foundation will be laid bare. When it falls, you will be destroyed in it, and you will know that I am the Lord. So I'll pour out my wrath against the wall and those who covered it with whitewash. I will say to you, the wall is gone, and so are those who whitewashed it. Again, if you're a token minority, stop being a token minority. Rally and obey God through me. If you're a white person in white culture, and you put your culture before God, which is what every white person's doing, my mother's blames, but every other white person. She's blameless because she had, she brought me into this world, mind you, not because of her actions. Other than that, basically, there's other things she's done. A story for another day. Everybody should stop upholding white culture before, over God. They should stop doing that. Put God first and watch your culture disintegrate and watch moral precision rise forth. Your racial cultures are weeds. They are tares. They are not the wheat of God. They are the yeast of the Pharisee and this and that. They're not the yeast of the righteous. They're not the teachings of the righteous. You're breaking the bread of wickedness with the devil and the devil's children. You're not breaking the bread of God and coming into the presence of God. So, if you have any questions, put in the comments. Watch that part several times if you're confused. To make a long story short, the whitewash is absolutely connected to the idea of the jackals, who's connected to Set. Set is Baal's Egyptian equivalent, and Baal is like the main enemy of God in the Bible. So the prophets who are in rebellion, rebel, are all part of the greater Babylonian system of Baal. And people who are whitewashed, right? Notice, it's not right to uphold white culture over moral precision. And when you uphold moral precision, white culture starts to disintegrate in you, and you just become a normal human being. And you become something much better than a normal human being, a child of God. Those prophets of Israel who prophesied to Jerusalem and saw visions of peace for her when there was no peace, declares the Lord. Okay, obviously they'll fall like I just explained. Now this is the part about women. Pay close attention. especially if you're an attractive female. Now, son of man, set your face against the daughters of your people who prophesy out of their own imagination. Prophesy against them. So these people who are, every female who thinks she's in the spirit of God isn't. They're not obeying God through me. So they're following their own imagination. And people have, tricked them, right? That's why they're called tricks quite often. They've tricked them into thinking that. And it affects their ability to have insight and sense and wisdom. They don't fear the Lord enough to have sound judgment. Okay? So it says prophesy against them. It doesn't say leave them alone. It doesn't say turn the other cheek. It says chastise them with the sword of God, which is much more effective than slapping them across the face or something, literally. And say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to women who sew magic charms on their wrists and make veils of various lengths for their heads in order to ensnare people. Will you ensnare the lives of my people but preserve your own? No, they're not preserving their own soul, and their lives are laughable. They're clueless. They're ditzy. They're scatterbrained. They're focused on the wrong thing, like a psychopath, like a fixated lunatic, like a social norm nutcase. When they're focused, or they're just a scatterbrained idiot, or both. You have profaned me among my people for a few handfuls of barley and the scraps of bread. So you think because you have a nice purse, because you're financially stable, because you drive a $50,000 vehicle or whatever, you think that makes you important? If you're a billionaire, you think that mere money makes you important? By lying to my people who listen to lies, you have killed those who should not have died and have spared those who should not live. It's almost like when they tried to drive me to suicide. It's in my story. I got my heart broken. I was miserable at 16. I wanted to die. And if I had killed my flesh, then Maria Mello would have killed me when I did not deserve to die. And would have chosen someone who did deserve to die, because they're in rebellion against God. And if they were a Jew in the Old Testament and there was a righteous king, they would have been stoned to death. So they chose to reinforce those who deserve to be stoned to death and to throw under the bus the Son of God. They're lying by their actions, by their decisions, by their words, etc. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against your magic charms with which you ensnare people like birds, like the falcon, and I will tear them from your arms. I will set free the people that you ensnare like birds. I will tear off your veils and save my people from your hands, and they will no longer fall prey to your power. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So they're using the fact that they're partially mixed with the DNA of righteous people to ensnare them. They look at them and say, wow, she's beautiful. Wow, look at this, look at that. And just like realizing who I am freed me from the power of women trying to get me to change my culture and to reinvent myself because of their stupid thinking, their stupid mentors, their stupid social clubs like the Eastern Star, their stupid frats, their stupid corporations, their stupid government groups, their stupid political groups. Their foolish attempts to be religious or spiritual. Because you disheartened, right? Broke my heart, right? Disheartened the righteous with your lies, when I had brought them no grief. And because you encouraged the wicked not to turn from their evil ways and to save their life, because you keep going down those paths you're going down. Those stupid cultures you're in, so stupid. Those evil cultures, those empty corporate greed-derived cultures, those capitalists and communists, and those stupid cultures you're in. You have no viable counter-argument. You were encouraging the wicked not to turn from their evil ways and to save their lives. By turning from their evil ways, you're encouraging them not to do that. Therefore, you will no longer see false visions or practice divination. I will save my people from your hands, and then you will know that I am the Lord. And we've seen these cultures change over time. Now, what he's referring to is that when these women actually turn from God, because he's saying that a remnant will turn from God and the masses will be destroyed, right? Narrow is the way to life. Broad is the way to destruction. So those women who are doing that, if they were to heed my warnings and rally and obey God through me, they'd be among the women who lived a righteous life, who passed away already. and they'd move in, the kingdom of heaven would be upon them. They'd be a part of it. They'd be, I am the gate. They'd be part of what's inside of me, which is the kingdom of heaven. Jerusalem and the Father. Jerusalem in the sky, not in this world. Not a physical place in this world which is lost in sin, Galatians 4.